So there we go. So this is Leela and DeWitt Wallace, and they were responsible for starting probably one of the first publications that was in response to the expansion of media. And we're going to see that there is a trend, or continuing of a trend, of media and the relationship to how we respond to it. And this is one of the reasons why microvideo has been expanded. But can anyone guess what publication that these two came out with? That was, again, one of the first publications to respond to the expansion of media. I'll give you a clue, it was 1929. And if you want to either put that in the chat, you might have a guess.
While we're waiting for people to chat in, my guess is TV Guide.
No. Actually, I'm going to mention TV Guide in a moment. That's interesting. If no one's going to take a shot at it, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. That's actually Reader's Digest they came out with, and so that was again a direct response to the expansion of all these great periodicals that were out there in the marketplace. And so you know, when they came out with that, yeah, that's right. One of the things that they mentioned on the cover of Reader's Digest that I always thought was interesting is they went ahead and they condensed down the media, but even then they knew that still the information was important in the condensed format. Reader's Digest expanded out, 23 million subscribers at one point. Again, it was so influential. Unfortunately, it has been reduced over the years. Now, the next thing that came up was influential as far as media, mass media, and micro video was World War II and film during the 1940s. Now, this is an example of a training film. Unfortunately, training films for commercial purposes were very long and very overproduced. But specifically around the military and efforts in the United States and Canada, there's evidence that during that time there were films that were around 80 to 90 seconds long and specifically animated. And it was just amazing actually going in and doing the research on this and finding all these different films and productions that were done that were actually micro video. But it wasn't done, you know, in mass. It was done very specific around the training of soldiers and ramping up the soldiers as quickly as possible. Again, a lot of evidence out there as far as animations. Again, very simple animations illustrating different facts that were occurring. Again, these were very short, very succinct. So micro video has been around for a long time. It just hasn't been expanded like we have it today. Disney was also a part of the use of micro video and training videos during the war effort, specifically in the United States. And it's interesting that he has a quote, I make a very clear distinction between films for entertainment and films for education. They are related in that dramatic elements should be made to serve the purposes of education, but we must interest and stimulate the learner. So he's kind of given a nod towards you know, making sure that there are, you know, entertainment elements that are in there, but it doesn't distract or take away from the overall presentation. And that was even back in the 1940s when Disney was contracted by the U.S. government to actually create these videos. He even knew it back then. Rolling up into the 1950s, you know, of course, we have Mr. Wizard, we have Julia Child, and Fred Rogers. So even though we had educational content expanding with television, this was still long form. We still haven't gotten into micro video until, yeah, Mr. Wizard, you got nothing there. You got no saying. Sesame Street. So Sesame Street actually is the first example that I have seen of micro video used in mass. Again, the expansion of television in the 1970s, And so, Ken, if you can actually bring up that first video, we're actually going to see an example of a micro video here. That's video number 1.
You, umbrella, up, you.
And I didn't get the audio off of the video that time, but again, that was a quick example of just the letter U. And
that was my mistake, Josh. I forgot the other rule is I need to open up my mic when I share the video, so I'll make sure I do that on the next one.
Okay, hey, that's fine. The videos are short, so we might have time to show them again. All right. But yeah, Sesame Street, again, this is the first examples that I've seen of mass media micro video, and in the case of just describing the letter U, it's actually fascinating how they structured, the instructional designers put together this video. Let me just continue on here. So once we get into the age of the internet, you can see, again, content, massive amounts of content being created, and how do we handle that? How do we handle all this information out there? Blogging became popular in the late 90s. Twitter, 140 characters, 2006. Instagram, 2010. Snapchat in 2011. And Vine videos, which are 6-second videos, started ramping up in 2013. So, it's interesting that we have these platforms using mobile devices that create short-form media. Vine being the extreme example of 6 seconds of content being created by individuals by simply holding up their mobile phone and hitting the record button. Instagram has recently passed Twitter as far as the number of users. So we're moving more into a visual representation of the messages that we want to put out there as opposed to textual characters, which is Twitter. But you've noticed that Twitter has also now included video and has included images as part of their delivery. So I think you're going to start seeing a lot of overlap in regards to the way that content is delivered on these platforms. But again, the overall message is, as we have expansion of media and we have reduction of times that we can pay attention, short-form media is going to be critical, and that's the reason why we're talking about that for education. So we also have a change in our environment, and the way that learners want to consume information has changed, so let's talk about that for a moment. So let's get this over here so I can actually see this. So the first question I have is, what percentage per week do employees focus on training? Anybody have any thoughts on that? Again, I don't know if anyone's in the chat box. It's actually only 1%. So yeah, and this is from Bernson by Deloitte. 1%.
We actually had Andre. He was pretty close. He had said 2. He was thinking 2%.
I know. It's, and so when you only have, on average, 5 minutes per day to focus in on training, creating a micro video or micro learning content is critical. It's got to be spot on, both as far as the focus and what the content is and the accessibility of it. Okay, next question. Number of times employees are online per day. In the early 2000s, 5 times today.
Yeah, I see Andre says 200. Adam says 200. What's funny is that, with the mobile phone, and especially today's environment, individuals, depending upon their lifestyle and how they use that mobile phone, I think that's very true. As many times they're going down and glancing at that. So I think this number is kind of skewed. I think there are definitely people on the edges that are using their mobile phone like every few minutes. So yeah, I can see that.
What's the average amount of time adults watch video on a smartphone or tablet on a daily basis? And this is from ATDH. I got this number from. 39 minutes.
Yeah, I'm seeing 24 minutes from Adam, 4 hours from Andre.
That's great. And 76 minutes if you consider all screens, like your TV. Which is actually interesting. So, you get this 40 minutes of consumption, but on average, only 5 minutes of it would be training time. All right. Most learners won't watch videos longer than what length? Well, this is a little tricky.
Yeah, 3 minutes from Adam, 6 minutes from Andre.
4 minutes from Bernson by Deloitte, and if you're looking at Kultura's State of Video, it was 5 to 10 minutes. Actually, I just got done reading Kultura's State of Video for 2016. Nothing has changed. They are still coming back with their surveys that 5 to 10 minutes is optimal for an educational video. I would like to see some more context and information about that. And I think it really has to do with the information that you are consuming. So, I don't know. I'm always, if shorter is better, I'm going to go with the shorter video. But if it's all the information that you need and it's under 10 minutes long, hey, that's still a consumable piece of media. Also, one of the other things that's influencing the creation of microvideo are study patterns and the way that individuals are getting their knowledge or getting their information. So we're moving from pedagogy to andragogy to heutagogy, where heutagogy is, hey, I'm determining exactly what I need to learn. I'm going to go ahead and find it and get it a la YouTube. Or if my company has a corporate YouTube, going in and leveraging that and finding the information that I need, self-study. Again, this is things that I think I need. And so that's very interesting how we are shifting and moving towards that, and asking or talking to students who are in high school or college. There is a lot of that going on. So again, all these patterns and ways that we consume media and want to consume media and access to media are influencing the length of our videos and the length of the content that we create. So here's just a few examples. Ken, get ready. So Ken, if you want to show video number 2.
All right, I'm switching myself over to presenter. I have my mic open this time. So
so we see a lot of these, tasty or actually I'm seeing tons of these videos now in my Facebook feed where it's, where it's a short kind of cooking video. I still analyze these things. Definitely borders entertainment, definitely more on the side of entertainment than education. But still, it's effective and gets the job done, especially if you like cream in your coffee or iced coffee. There's a lot of that. Again, we are seeing out there in the marketplace short-form video all over. Let's continue. Let's go one more. All right, Ken, if you want to show video number 3. This is a Vine video. And, even at 6 seconds long, you can learn something. And in this case, it's going to be a video of taking a battery and putting some magnets on it and shooting it through a copper coil, which is pretty cool.
And we did get a comment from Adam. He said he loves those tasty videos.
I do too. Actually, I get inspired, especially during football season. There's all kinds of creative ways that you can use pizza dough. So.
All right, here comes video number 3.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, that's pretty quick. So, with this micro video, this is great for, for educational purposes, especially, in preschool or in, K through 5. Great little experiment. But obviously, as the video becomes shorter, there's additional information that I'm going to need to help support this effort. To expect someone to actually go ahead and execute properly on this little science experiment just with a 6-second video, don't know about that. Now, maybe a job aid or a website with a page with step-by-step instructions, in addition to the short-form video, will probably end with better results. Okay.
Josh, we had a question from Nelson you might want to address now. He's asking, are people still learning using DVD videos too, or is it really just this focus on these quick little micro videos?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I think there is a shift that is going on, and a lot of it has to do with access to media. And again, I'm not downplaying the importance of a long-form video as long as, from an instructional standpoint, that it is spot on and it's exactly what the student needs. We do have evidence from sources like lynda.com and other sites that serve out tons of educational content, that once you get beyond 4 or 5 minutes, that as the video continues, concentration and focus begins to drop, and people start dropping off after that threshold. So, I think educational DVDs or long-form, videos, they're probably going to end up being segmented, so they can be consumed a little bit at a time, or chapter markers in a long-form video. One of the other topics that I talk about is interactive video, and I know the low-hanging fruit for a lot of companies is to take existing video content and chop it up and put chapter markers in there to, in fact, create micro video content where users can jump to a specific location and not have to watch 5 or 10 minutes of content to get to the information that they need. So you don't necessarily have to go in and edit a large video, you just have to put those references in there. So I think overall, videos are going to get shorter and more hyper-focused. Also, looking long-term, if you want to go way out, get crystal ball going here, videos will get shorter, and then using artificial intelligence, they'll be strung or put together automatically to tell a larger story or to give more information. Now, that's way out there, but I think that's the direction that we're going. Let's talk about structure.
Oh, and before you jump into that, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything, but I see, Elise, you have your hand up, so I'm going to assume that you have a comment or a question. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Elise. Do you have a question or a comment, Elise? You should be able to speak if you unmute your microphone. Just give you a minute or two. I see your hand up and down here. I'll go ahead and mute you so Josh can continue, Elise, but if you do have a question or a comment, just chat it, and we'll make sure it gets to Josh. Go ahead, Josh.
Great. Thank you. So, the question comes up then, what is the definition of a micro video? And my definition of a micro video is a video that is 60 seconds or less. Now, where did you come up with that? Well, what's interesting is that the videos that we create, let's say it's 4 or 5 minutes long, it's actually made up of micro videos. Micro videos make up a macro video. And so my analysis of being under 60 seconds allows me to really just hyper-focus on that length and what can be done in 60 seconds or less, and then we can put or string together these micro videos into a macro experience, a really efficient macro experience. So that's my personal definition. That doesn't mean it's correct, but that's my frame of reference for this presentation. Video 4. Here's a 1 minute video.
Okay, so let me just grab video 4.
Hello everyone and welcome to Cantonese in 1 minute. This time we have to see 2 words in 4 characters, which are 你好 and 再見. I repeat them again. 你好,再見. 你好,再見. Let's write them down. 你 you. 好 good. 再 again. 見 to see. 你好,再見. 你好 hello. 再見 goodbye. 你好再見 the basic of the basic. So let's see them in an example. Hi 你好.
你好。
再見。
再見。
你好再見. That's the end for now. So don't forget those 2 words. It's the basic of the basic. 你好 hello and 再見 goodbye. But if you want to be a real loco, you just have to say bye bye.
Now, I do have to, I do have to go ahead and question some of the quality of that video. But this video, again, when I was doing the analysis of microvideo content, really intrigued me because the author of this video did a fantastic job in creating in 60 seconds what essentially are micro moments. He went in and instructionally had this video set up to where he was going in and giving you optimal experiences for learning a language, right? Again, think about all the various ways that you need to learn a new word in a different language. He spoke the word, he wrote the word down, he gave you a visual translation, he repeated the words, he even had time in 60 seconds to show you a real-world example. And then he repeated the words again. This is all within 60 seconds. So we had this really condensed down experience. We had optimal instructional strategy that was implemented in here. Again, the quality and the execution probably could have been increased, but hey, it was a solid piece of media. And again, I really love this as a 60-second example. Again, all these different micro moments of learning occurring here. Video 5, sir. Let's listen to Bob Bergen. He's going to teach you how to talk like Porky Pig.
All right, so video number 5.
Count out the sounds. Eba, bi, boy. Okay? So it's 4 sounds in the word. A chair. A desk. Now, you wrinkle your nose, you make it kind of nasal. And it's a boy. And then for the 3rd sound, you push it more. A boy. It's a chair. It's a desk. And then you have to put together full sentences. The boy sat in the chair next to the desk. And nobody can do that, and that's when I have job security.
I love that one. Yeah, so even with, even with Bob Bergen going in and showing you how to talk like Porky Pig, even with that, we can even break down and have 30 seconds in there. So there were micro moments. So the 4 sounds, wrinkle the nose, the 3rd sound, the sentence, even the joke at the end, all micro moments that occurred. Now we're getting smaller. Now we're down to 15 seconds. So Ken, if you can play that next video.
And again, what number is this one?
You know what? I think we skipped this one. I think we,
6?
Yeah, go ahead and play 6. Let's see what we got.
Looks like it's the one with the person with the scarf.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Wow. So, we got down to 15 seconds, and
there were just all kinds of different issues with this particular micro video. This woman was attempting to go ahead and show you how to put the scarf on, but we had a distraction in regards to the music in the background, definitely heavy on the cognitive load. The text was coming up on the screen. Don't know if it was in a good position. So and it was definitely, they're trying to go more on the entertainment side than the learning side. And that's the one thing that you need to balance when creating your micro video content. Actually, a couple things. One is the cognitive load of what you're trying to present because it's a short period of time. And then the balance of making something entertaining but not distracting and taking away from the learning, right, that's going to occur. What happens when you get, oh yeah, micro moments. There was micro moments in there. And I think we got one more. This one's from Lowe's, and this is a great idea. This is 6 seconds. You know, so again, people question, well, what can I learn in 6 seconds? It's almost like a flip book at that point. So Ken's going to go ahead and bring up this video from Lowe's. This is a Vine video, 6 seconds. And it's going to show you an idea of how to put up multiple pictures. So we tack it down, put the paper, remove the paper, and it's pretty awesome, all right? So you can go ahead and experiment and put the paper. Okay, he's going to show it one more time. Thank you, sir. There's no audio with that, by the way. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. And even within this 6-second video, there's still micro moments, guys. I had to go down to tenths of a second to break this down. But we had hang paper, nail the hooks, hang the pictures, remove the paper. There was 4 steps in a 6-second video, and it was still easy to consume. And it just, you know, for some of you probably got an idea, or, you know, now you want to do a photo collage up on a wall. Really interesting. And now we're down to steps. But be careful. When you start reducing the amount of time, you begin to distort reality. And there is a Vine video, we don't have an example of it here, showing how to do a backsplash in a kitchen. Now, if anybody has attempted to do a backsplash in a kitchen, a 6-second Vine video does not do it justice. As a matter of fact, I took up this task last year. Everything was cool when we started out, and then we found out that our kitchen wasn't square, the cabinets weren't square, and it got bad pretty quick. It took about 12 hours to do that backsplash. So very different than the 6 seconds showing somebody going in and slapping up a backsplash. Again, you have to ask yourself the question, if I reduce the information, if I distill down the video content, is it still valuable from an instructional standpoint? Do I need to go in and support the effort with different forms of media? Do I need a job aid? Do I have to have a website? Do I have to have a manual, right? So it goes hand in hand. Again, you're doing your learners a disservice by reducing the length of the media if you're not telling the whole story or transferring all the knowledge that needs to be transferred successfully for them to perform their task. Please keep that in mind. It's definitely, just reducing time is not a panacea, believe me.
Yeah, we have a comment from Jim that's kind of echoing that. When that Lowe's video, he's like, you know, it didn't stand on its own. There's no context there, you know, no idea what they were trying to get across. So
exactly. It's a great point, Jim, and you know, you cannot start going out there, you know, and you read a lot of articles out there on micro-learning and making things shorter. There's more to it than just that. You just can't go out and make things short. There has to be a strategy involved in making sure that the students are consuming the content properly within the proper context. And, you know, you guys are all professionals. You understand that. But again, I get very upset when I see these articles out there that says make it shorter. I mean, you know, there's definitely more in regards to the strategy than that. Yeah.
And Josh, I do want to let you know, if you could minimize your GoToWebinar control. It's overlaying on your PowerPoint right now.
Oh, I didn't know you could see that. I am so sorry.
No, that's okay.
Guys, I'm so sorry about that. So less than 5 seconds. I know you guys can't hear this, or I know you can probably maybe see it, but I just have a couple examples here. I don't even know if you saw that or not. But what happens in less than 5 seconds? And this is something that you need to consider, especially on the intros or the beginning of your training videos. So we get into a really, weird area where we have what's called reflexive memory, and I have a slide of it in here in just a moment. Reflexive memory kicking in, and this is the initial response to consuming media, both visual and auditory. And bias is going to kick in. So when you see somebody's face, when you hear some music, those elements of bias and reflexive memory are going to take place. We don't have any learning that is happening yet, less than 5 seconds, unless you have like that flip book Vine thing from Lowe's. But it's critical, because if you know your audience well and you're trying to get into their heads and their hearts, then understanding the music, understanding the initial visual can actually bring them into the video and grab their attention. Again, I mentioned reflexive memory. Less than 5 seconds, not going to get into it too deep. We can start to really break that down, and you can even talk about superliminal and subliminal. But again, we want to keep this as realistic as possible. And I don't know if your students would appreciate you sliding a single frame into the training video. It would be an interesting experiment, though. If anybody wants to try that, just get back to me and let me know how that goes, okay? Anyways, I had the subliminal video. We're just going to skip that. Let's talk about some of the brain science. Dr. Richard Mayer, he's one of my favorites when it comes to cognitive science and the brain, specifically around the consumption of media. And this is so critical for your micro videos. And I know that a lot of you know Mayer. Some of you that don't. Pretty much the way that it goes down is that we have information that we are sensing. It goes into sensory memory in our ears and our eyes. And actually there's a really good point here about the way that words are consumed, specifically words that are heard versus words that are read. And depending upon the person, somebody may actually, as they're reading, get an auditory representation of that word in their brain versus just a visual representation of the word in the brain. So that's the reason why that arrow goes in two different directions there for the ears and the eyes. But once we get into sensory memory, it goes into working memory, and then it goes into long-term memory, and that's our goal, right, is long-term memory. So the micro video content should, if it's working properly, get into working memory and then integrate into long-term memory. So we have both auditory and visual channel, and that is one of my big concerns is as you create these videos is making sure that we have optimal representation of auditory and visual information so that it's easy to consume, right? If we have cognitive overload on these videos and they're short, it's a waste of time. So the big key here is essential information, visual and auditory versus incidental, which is just nice to have. An example of that would be the girl with the scarf and the really distracting music in the background. The music played no role in the consumption of how to, or the process of how to tie the scarf, right? So that is incidental. And believe me, there's a lot of examples out there of background music being incidental to the learning as opposed to being essential to the learning process. So again, some of the brain science, visual channel overload, if we're trying to go ahead and distill down and get the essential information, one technique is to actually remove written words and add audio. Again, that allows for separation of the channels. You'll have a visual channel focus in on the video, and then the audio or the auditory channel is going to take in that content, take in the word content. If both channels are overloaded, auditory and visual, another thing that you can do is prime and allow time to process. So if you have a short form video, you can tell the student before they consume the video what they're going to consume or what they're about ready to learn. Again, what you're doing is prepping or priming the brain, and then that gives them time to process. So, again, you can pause, let them process what they've just learned, and then go on to the next video. So, it goes back to reflections, right? If you reflect. If your essential and incidental are overloaded, this is just complete, total, the senses are all taken in with tons of content. I always just remove background audio. That's where I start. So that's another tip. Again, those tasty videos, they're great, but from a cognitive load standpoint, the background music can be really distracting in a lot of them. And sometimes it's hard to understand all the steps. Like you'll have to watch, if you really wanted to go ahead and create one of these dishes from a tasty video, you'd have to watch it multiple times to get it down, right? And the goal is trying to minimize the number of times that our students are consuming the content. That is optimal media. So again, anything that's distracting like background audio, you probably want to get rid of. When incidental and essential are completely overloaded, confusing visuals and spoken words, you can go ahead and place visuals near the action. So things like arrows, things like additional words or pop-up messages in your video, put it in close proximity. Don't put it far away, okay? Because if you start putting elements that are far away from each other, it takes more work on the student's part to actually go ahead and look at one area of the screen, then come down here, and then things have changed, and it's very difficult. So keep elements like call-outs, arrows, words that pop up in close proximity to the action. Get more tasty videos. Another technique that you can do is refers to elements that need to be stored in the brain or kind of held there in representational hold. So when you're creating your micro video content, don't get into a situation where you're asking your student to remember something to then go on to the next part. You want to go ahead and just get it all out in one time, and so again, in situations where you're like, okay, I want you to go ahead and remember this, now let's go ahead and show you this next part. Sometimes that's difficult to do, and the user would have to watch the video over again. Oh, here's another thing to think about with micro video or short form video. This is the reverse modality effect. Now, modality, at least the way that Mayer was talking about it, is the way that media is consumed in a linear fashion. And when I was growing up, we had the reel-to-reel projectors, and the only modality was the teacher going up and actually stopping the film, talking about that point, and then cranking the film back up again. Right? And now we have mobile phones. Right? So here's my mobile phone. Right? And so I can go ahead and start and stop and rewind and consume that video any way that I want to. And you have to consider that, right? So when you think about your delivery system and the way that items are consumed, what is the modality? Can your user effectively go ahead and rewind that video and watch that part over again? I think this is why we see in platforms like lynda.com or Pluralsight or some of these other widely used educational channels out there that right on that playback bar is a rewind button of 10 seconds. So you can click that little button and it goes back 10 seconds and you can watch that part over again. That's awesome, right? And we have a lot of people that you go down and you try to scrub back and then watch that part over again. Make that part of your interface if you can. That's an important part of watching the video, or the possibility of watching the video over again. So I want to go ahead and start creating my micro video content, and I have to think about the moments of learning intent. Typically, why do we want to even create a learning video in the first place? Either because I want to know a fact, perform a task, make a decision, or just follow a passion. I just want to watch a video for the sake of learning on my own. Here's a micro video workflow. Again, I know this is a lot of information here, but as far as planning, creating, and consuming, these are all things that you need to think about. So for those of you that are grabbing the screen like with Snagit and stuff, please do so. I will actually give you a moment if you can capture the screen. Just a couple of things here that might be parts of a process that you haven't thought about before. So when planning the micro video content, definitely within the writing, the structure of a micro video, thinking about 15-second, 30-second, 60-second video. Don't let the shortness of the video allow you to get lazy. Actually, as the video gets shorter and shorter, you have to think really hard about what you want to say within that time frame. Delivery is important, context, the way that users consume the information, understand that. And then also UCG is user, actually, sorry, it should be user-generated content. It's backwards. It's UGC. User-generated content, if you're thinking about short-form videos created by your own employees, obviously there's a lot of information you have to think about there. When creating your short-form video, again, are you going to have any kind of animation? Are you going to be shooting live video? What kind of audio are you going to have? And then thinking about user-generated content. Consuming, you're just going to put it out there without getting any kind of analytics. Having a corporate YouTube that's going to give you information about how the videos are consumed is essential. It's essential. Just don't put your videos out there without the ability to actually get those numbers back in on how those videos are consumed. What is the overall instructional flow? Again, is it for performance support or is it part of a larger initiative? Metadata. So schema, taxonomy, tagging of video, very important, especially in situations with user-generated content. And then do you have any kind of social aspect or social strategy with the micro video? Some scripting tips. Got some formulas that you guys can use. Again, feel free to screen grab these. So I mentioned the reflexive memory and the beginning of a video. And one thing that is really critical here is the balance between having emotion into your video and blending it with really good instructional content. I think that's the issue with a lot of short form videos, especially like those tasty videos, is that their goal is to kind of show you how to do this task, but they're trying to put emotion throughout the whole entire presentation. I don't believe you have to do that. What you do have to do, though, is bring your students into the video, capture their attention, get really good with the instructional content, and then put fence posts of emotion in there. And so this is one of the strategies that we use where at the beginning of a micro video you have an emotional pull. I want to bring you in, but then I'm going to be very clear and give you a very low cognitive load experience with the content. We then have emotional pull push in the middle, which could be a transitional, like my face, a subject matter expert coming up in the middle of the video to transition to one final thought. Then we have the content, and then we have the emotional push, what actually would be like the call to action, or how to apply this information, or what to do next. What's the next video you should watch in a series of videos, right? That would be the push. So again, emotional pull, that can be a title sequence, and with titling, you're going to use that to gain attention, learning objectives, and even you can map it back to Gagne's conditions of learning, if you want to go ahead and get that technical with it. We can also use headshots. So, showing a subject matter expert at the beginning also has great emotional pull and great value. People love to see people's faces during the learning process. And so when you're thinking about your headshots, also think about, and I thought I was going to have some example of headshots in there, obviously I didn't. Reflexive memory, again, this is the bias and the initial reaction to the visual and auditory information that folks are consuming. So again, make sure you really do understand your audience members and what they're going to enjoy or what's going to emotionally pull them in at the beginning of that video. As far as the content, Well, that's just whatever your information is going to be. The emotional pull push, again, you can go with a headshot, bringing, again, your subject matter back up for a brief, 5-6 seconds, doing a transition and getting into the last or final point of the video. You get to your content, and the emotional push, again, you can go with a headshot right at the end or bring up a title, completely up to you. When you're scripting your micro videos, use active voice. Again, it's a short period of time, so you got to get right at it. You want your scripts to be optimal, so use active voice when scripting. A couple other points here. I did mention analytics earlier. I can't emphasize enough that if you guys are going to go ahead and put micro videos out in your environment or for a potential client, there must be a way to analyze consumption patterns and how those videos are used throughout your whole ecosystem. We just released, we just did a whole production for a multinational company, and we actually used, for this client, they actually had a Vimeo for Business account, and it was great because we can actually see a breakdown of how those videos are consumed globally. So, they have a presence practically all over the place, and we can actually see the usage in every country using those Vimeo analytics, which is fantastic. So this is Josh Burnson. Just so we see all types of curated and highly refined advertising as we browse the web, companies are starting to wage an escalating war to build people analytics models. And I think media consumption patterns of our e-learning content or video-based content is huge, So again, people analytics, media consumption analytics, I think they all go together. The moment of truth for a creative unit is the first 5 seconds, and a previous lifetime is the last 10 seconds. Again, there's so much media out there. You have to understand who your audience members are, and you have to have that emotional pull in the first 5 seconds. It's got to be spot on. Getting back to the video analytics, so one of the other ways that you can leverage analytics, you can do this today with YouTube. This is actually a screenshot of YouTube, and it talks about audience retention. And so with the audience retention here, basically what it's showing is that as the graph goes up, there's more people getting to that or looking at that part of time. And they're actually scrubbing to it. Like at 258, they're actually scrubbing to that. They're scrubbing here. They're scrubbing there. That's actually the start of a new concept. This is actually a representation of a Captivate video that we put out, and it's very long. It was 12 minutes long. And it was interesting because these points right here was actually the start of a new concept, and we could have broken this thing down into 4 micro videos by analyzing those scrub points. Relative audience retention is based upon the drop-off point of a user or a viewer, and if they stick around for a long period of time, abnormally, you're going to see it in the graph. And what we see way out here is that if somebody got to 9 minutes and 40 seconds, like they stuck around for the remainder. So something really good was at the end of this video. And again, what this graph is showing you is the average drop-off point of a viewer over the course of time. And if a large amount of people stick around and buck that trend, you'll actually see that here in the graph. So the analytics that we get from our view data, I think eventually will be mashed up with key performance indices. And so we will be able to go ahead and correlate consumption of certain parts of video data and how it's impacting our organization. These are just very rough ideas, but I think that eventually this kind of again, KPI mashup of video watching or video analytics or marketing analytics will happen. Just a quick, little snippet here of user-generated content. Again, if you're thinking about using micro videos or having your audience members or your students go out there and actually shoot their own video, make sure there's formal training, you have a content repository, and you think about holistically, instructionally, how this user-generated content is going to be used. It's your total learning opportunity. Corporate YouTube or an LMS that has video capabilities, that's a great foundation. Having an application that has been vetted out by IT and security, right? And also legal is going to have to get in there and figure out ownership and things like that. So you have to get all that worked out. Again, having, and this is a KZO, that's one example of a vendor that's out there, having a vendor that's going to support your video efforts and making sure that their platform is the right fit. Definitely want to have that set up before doing any kind of user-generated content video. Again, here's other things you need to work on before you roll it out. You want to pilot it for sure, but I think the opportunity is huge. Some environments will lend itself to having students or having employees create content. Others forget about it. So like banks, energy companies, things like that. I know it's not going to happen. So, in regards to like content and your visual information for microvideo, here are some thoughts or ideas as far as like ways you can present your knowledge. Whiteboarding videos are really popular. Using kinetic text or animated text is also popular. Motion graphics, cartoons, live action, which is just getting your camera out there and filming. Screen capture has always been very popular, using tools like Camtasia. Screen drawing, made popular by Khan Academy. As far as auditory representation, background music and narration will always be there. Sound effects. Some ideas as far as scripts. You can always think about the moment of learning intent. What are you trying to get across to the student, and how do you want to structure your micro video? So just some thoughts and ideas around that. Again, they either are going to want to know a fact, they want to perform a task, they want to make a decision, or follow a passion. So some examples. This is a product solution or system feature. You come in with a question, you have an answer. Why? Because here are the reasons. Introduce the new system or failure, benefits, how does it work, call the conclusion. A lot of these mirror 30 or 60-second commercials. So again, there's a lot of correlation behind that, but these are all things that have worked over time. A new process, background and history, how do we do it? How are we doing it now? Why the old was bad? Why is today's solution has major benefits, the advantages. Internal help or coaching, review the issue, what do we do to solve the problem, the methods and the solutions, contact us, next steps. Again, these are just some quick examples of structures for trying to transfer knowledge or information that's out there. I think we just got a few minutes. Ken, I don't know if there are any questions or comments.
Yeah, we've actually had a couple. So Nelson was just asking training platform hosting video suggestions for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of vendors that are out there. My suggestions would be looking at Panopto, KZO, Brightcove, and Cultura. Crazy names. But those are like 4 really solid vendors.
And then there's a 3-part question here from Andre, and it came in a little bit earlier, and I think you might have touched on some of this, but I'll kind of repeat it just in case. It's a 3-part question regarding user-generated content. And so first he's asking what micro video tools can be used within companies to allow for user-generated content.
Yeah. Yep. So like a vendor like KZO actually has an app that you can put on employees' phones, that will allow them to record video. It will allow them to tag it and then post it with governance. So that has to go through a series of checks, or like your boss has to approve it. That's what you want to look for. I would really try to gravitate towards vendors that give you that platform or that workflow, as opposed to trying to home grow it or cobble it together.
And then he's asking, you know, how can you distribute the content, and then policies required to make it a success?
Yeah. So distribution would be through your corporate YouTube. Again, once you get past governance and videos can be posted to the corporate YouTube, then all that user-generated content is going to be out there. Obviously, tagging is important because it must be searchable. That's critical. You just can't, you know, randomly put content out there and expect somebody to find information. What was the last part, Ken?
I think it was policies around it, but I feel like I touched it.
You know, every environment's going to be different. And the University of Kentucky Hospitals, one of our clients, they actually allow the nurses to record video and take pictures, but it's all around HIPAA, and they can't take a picture of somebody's face. They can take a picture of like a wound, or you know, where they're putting a needle or anything like that, but that's just one example. Everybody's environment is going to be different in regards to security and what is allowed. You have to find that out. You have to work with legal. You have to talk with leadership, but there are opportunities abound. And I think so many companies are not taking advantage of user-generated content and user-generated video, and it needs to be explored. It needs to be piloted, because, you know, if it's a safety issue, if it's something that's going on at a restaurant, at multiple restaurants, at multiple locations, it's an opportunity for your students to have a voice. I mean, think about that. You know, we're just always pushing information out. What can we learn from our student base? And so that's the big opportunity.
And here's another one from Nelson. What are the pricing for a micro video? I guess he's asking about, I guess, maybe how much does it generally cost to create one?
Yeah, you know, it's going to vary across the board. I mean, if we take a look at the Cantonese video, there's a lot of production in that 1 minute video of, you know, saying hello and goodbye. Or I could go ahead and do a simple 15-second or 30-second Camtasia video of Captivate or Storyline or Adobe Premiere or anything like that, and be done with it immediately. You know, so I think it varies. I think it, you know, again, instructionally, are you trying to go ahead and illustrate something that requires an animation? So, I mean, the cost is across the board. Again, think about a 30-second commercial, how expensive some of those are. So I can't really put a number on it. What I can, you know, say is that obviously you have to work within your constraints, budgetary constraints. So you have to figure out what you're able to do, whether it be with your mobile phone or a simple animation tool or anything like that, that is going to produce optimal media. You know, and so there's a lot of things that are in play right there. But yeah, work within your constraints. Try to produce optimal media as best you can.
I think that covers all the questions. I know we ran over a little bit too, but we had some good questions coming in that people wanted answered. So I think if you had any closing comments, and then Janet might have a few things to say to close us out completely.
Sure. Again, thanks to everybody at ATDHouston for the opportunity to speak. If you want to learn more, I will be speaking at DevLearn in November in Las Vegas. So on Microvideo, but definitely getting more into the brain science part of it. But again, thanks guys for the opportunity. And if you want to know more or have additional questions, my information, my email and my Twitter handle is up on the screen. Thank you so much.
Well, we want to thank Josh for all this information he gave us today. I was taking notes along the way. I really enjoyed it. I hope everybody that's online enjoyed it today. And stay tuned and be sure you get his info down and send him some emails if you have some questions that he can help with. And I look forward to the next webinar that we have. So you guys have a great rest of the day and the rest of the week, and try to stay dry. Have a great day.